Welcome, everyone. AEW Unrestricted, the official podcast of all elite wrestling, where the best wrestle, and you can listen to us every week, talk to all of these best wrestlers. You can also collect your favorite wrestlers in the 2024 Upper Deck AEW deck, because Upper Deck is a sponsor of this podcast. They're amazing. You can start your trading card collection today, unwrap autograph, memorabilia, or premium tech inserts. Visit upperdeck.com to learn more. And we are deep into 2025 now, which yesterday, it just felt like I was... Well, I mean, we're like a whole weekend, which means I have no idea what day it is anymore because that's how things happen. I mean, I'm still accidentally writing 2022 on everything. So really, it's just another year for this to be absolutely ridiculous. So did you have a New Year's resolution?
Kinda. I've been doing this this thing lately. I have this game, and actually, it was Jamie Hayter I have to give credit to, who helped start this with me. Because shout out Jamie Hayter, who is constantly checking on my mental health. And we have this game where it started the first day she asked me about it, and it was like on a scale of 0 to 100, where's my mental health at for the day? And that particular day, I wasn't having a great day, and I was like, I don't know, 10. And so now every day she like checks in and she's like, okay, what's your number? And so I constantly am throwing out numbers. And so my goal is actually to check in with everybody else I know. And I've been doing that a lot with people where it's like, okay, so I explain the thing to them and I'm like, 0 to 100, where's your mental health at? For example, Aubrey Edwards, 0 to 100, where are you at today?
I am at 100 because I'm very excited for our guest today. And who is our guest today, Will?
And we are joined by a man who is known amongst AEW circles with many, many faces. And today he joins us with this particular one. He is the one and only Serpentico.
Well,
Serpentico,
hello.
Thanks for being here on AEW Unrestricted.
Thank you for having me. Anytime.
Yeah, it's your second appearance with us. I think the last time you were with Luther when you were part of Chaos Project.
Yes.
Since then, you've become the Spanish Announce Project, teaming with Angelico, and then you've been on a bit of a winning streak.
Look at that! Look at
ROH.
Look at that! Look at me!
Who would have thought?
Look at us! Look at us!
I mean, how has it felt to have been through such a journey amongst AEW and in Ring of Honor, to have gone from, like you said, Chaos Project, Spanish Announce Project, and now on a winning streak?
It's great. So it's been years and years. I've been here for almost 5 years, but it really honestly feels like it just, it's been a full 2 weeks. Right, the wrestling is so fast paced, and our business and our company itself is so fast paced, where you really have to sit down and think about like all the stuff you've been through, and it's been a lot. It's been really cool to experience me and Luther, and then me on my own for a little bit, and now me and Angelico, and it's a really cool transition. When I was on this podcast a few years ago, my mask was red, and now it's green.
Yes,
yeah,
hey.
That's actually what I meant by many faces. I definitely didn't mean anything else by that.
I do want to point out from a many faces perspective, Serpentico does have gear that just says Nyla sucks.
I do.
Repeated all over it.
All
which
over.
Is
masks, gauntlets, pants.
Trunks.
It's the best. Yeah.
Everything. It is easily my favorite gear because I saw it and then I saw it after the match and I was like, oh, there's a lot of detail here. You literally went out of your way to make sure that everyone knows.
I'm a big fan of Easter eggs, and if you see it from afar, you can't really tell, just like a little pattern. But if you take a picture and zoom in, like, oh, there's a message here. Oh, this is the message. And that's the message I want to give across to everybody. Nyla sucks.
So since we're on the topic of Nyla sucks, so on one social platform,
yes,
you are besties with Nyla Rose, and on another social platform, you are ex-besties with Nyla Rose.
That's right.
So we've had Nyla on this podcast recently, and we've asked her opinions of you, which you can probably guess what they were.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, how has your relationship with Nyla evolved over the 5 years you've been at AEW?
It's been interesting, right? We definitely don't get along, right?
No.
To this day, we try to prank each other as much as possible. She's very mean with her pranks. I'm very lighthearted. I'm a very nice.
I got roped into one of those pranks, and it's like,
right.
And it's one of those things where it's like, wait, first off, I like both of you guys.
Yeah,
and,
so
and how am I
making people choose sides? What are we doing?
I know.
Here?
What is this? But it's like when Nyla's like, "Hey, do this," and I'm like, oh, "Okay."
Oh, that's usually how it goes. Like, hey, you do this. I'm like, oh, what do I do? You know, it's been very fun. I will say this. She's very witty, keeps you on my toes. And there are some times where she'll tweet something at 4 a.m. And I usually just capture the time she tweets her ridiculous tweet, and I send it to her. I'm like, hey, what are you doing at 4 a.m. with this thought process? It's very weird, but I like it. I appreciate her wit and her meanness sometimes.
Well, one of the things that's been fascinating about you guys' relationship is, again, it feels to me like deep down there is some love here.
Well, I mean...
It was a big sigh.
I mean, I can appreciate Nyla as a person, right? A fellow coworker, a fellow wrestler. But that's about it. Well, I can't.
No, I mean, look, because ultimately, and we've had some good comic book discussions, but like at the end of the day, like Batman knows deep down he needs the Joker, right?
Wait, okay, hold on. Okay, wait a minute. Out of us both, which one's Batman? Which one's the Joker? This is very important. This is very important.
I feel like she's the Joker.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You asked the question, but it was rhetorical.
Yeah,
so.
100%. Yes. That was gonna be my answer anyway.
Yeah. But like at the end of the day, they need each other, right? Like that is truly what makes them grow.
Complete.
And like deep down,
yes,
Batman loves the Joker.
Of course. He needs him around.
Yes.
The Joker makes Batman relevant.
That is true. Hold on. Wait a minute.
I'm going to let you use that one. I'm going to let you use that.
Someone's going to clip this and just put that part out.
That someone will clip it and post it at 4 a.m.
Correct.
So either way, I'm just saying that between the two of you, I think it as far as you guys have taken it, and granted, she's taken it a lot further than I think you would ever think.
Oh, yeah. Yes, she definitely has.
I don't know. I thought that you needed that invitation to the herpes convention, but that.
So when you say it without context, somebody might go also clip this and go, what happened?
What happened?
Huh?
So Serpentico, why don't you tell the full story so that those listening understand you weren't actually at a herpes convention?
Yeah. So this past Wednesday, we were in Washington, D.C., and I have to take a later flight. I'm a day of person. I like flying in the day of shows. And that day, I just took a later flight because I had stuff to do at home. And then that flight, got delayed. And I get a text from my like, hey, are you okay? I'm like, why would you text me if I'm okay? Like,
why do you care?
What's going on? But didn't hear back. I'm like, okay, whatever. I land at the airport, and as I'm getting my luggage off the plane, and I'm walking through, I get another text. Hey, wear your mask. I'm like, okay, what is going on? So why are you texting me at 1 p.m. Wear your mask? I'm at the airport. What are you doing? And lo and behold, I get off the plane and I go to the terminal and I go to get my checked luggage, and I see Nyla Rose in full wrestling gear.
Yes.
Full wrestling gear, with a sign, these white fan signs that we have at shows, but, at the airport. And it says, welcome Serpentico to the National Herpes Convention. And she's standing there in full gear, just smiling, waiting for me. Well, everybody who got off the plane with me is behind me, just looking at me and looking at the sign, and looking at her and going, oh, congrats. She took it to a point where I don't know how I can retaliate. Now what do I do?
So I have so many questions. What was the response of the people around you, or maybe the vibe, when you get off a plane wearing a mask at an airport? Because that seems a little sketchy. So I didn't wear a mask. I didn't put the mask on, only because I didn't know what she meant about put a mask on. Gotcha. So, and plus, just a ski mask. Plus, COVID mask could have been anything. Right, could have been anything. But putting this on an airport, it might give off bad vibes. So a little bit.
I opted just to ignore the text. I'm like, I don't know what she's texting about. I'll figure it out when I get to the building. Lo and behold, she was already there waiting for me. And the people around me, again, they saw me walking up, and I stopped because I saw her. And then I need glasses, so I got to squint to see what she's saying, what she wrote on the thing. And when I realized it, people around me were looking at me and then looking at her and just judging, right? Just making assumptions, not knowing that this is a playful, kind of hurtful prank. And they're none the wiser, right? They go home and go, honey, you know what I saw off the airplane today? This guy went to the herpes convention. And I'm like, what are we doing?
The question then is, there's a herpes convention?
Yeah, in DC.
DC feels like the right place for that, to be honest.
I guess.
Sorry to anyone listening from DC.
One of the things I do want to talk about, though, is the fact that you, Serpentico, are easily one of the most reliable performers in AEW. And I say that knowing that, like, there have been times, and you know what I'm talking about here, where in the process of putting the show together, we'll have everything ready to go, good to go, but then it's like, okay, we've got to warm the crowd up. We need somebody to go out there. And I've watched times where something will go, we'll have this match planned, and something will go wrong instantly. There'll be an injury, something to that effect. And 5 minutes beforehand, they're like, we need to send somebody out there. Serpentico, are you good? And you're just absolutely like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
Let's do it. Yeah.
And the amount of times that you have been just on a moment's notice, ready to go, you are, again, one of the MVPs of being just a reliable go-to performer for AEW.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I want to talk to you a little bit about how it feels being in that role and knowing that responsibility that you have for being that for AEW, and knowing that we can rely on you to come through in those moments.
Yeah, it feels awesome because I appreciate the trust that's put in me. There was one time, this is many, many months ago, where Orange Cassidy pulled me aside and said, "Hey, how does it feel?" Like, what does what feel? Like, how does it feel to know that Tony can go, "Hey, I need you for this," and you're the first person he thinks of, and he sends you out there because you're not gonna, you're gonna get it done or whatever. And I'm like, I never thought of it that way, but yeah, that makes me feel great. Like I enjoy the responsibility. I'm a big fan of doing stuff like that, right? Going out there and just, my motto is, I'll figure it out. Whatever it is, we're gonna figure it out. And and Arby can attest to this too. Whenever like I'm on headset and she's the ref of the match, I'm like, hey, we're gonna get through it. We're gonna figure something out. We're gonna get through it. And that's always been my motto. I'm like, hey, I'll never say no. I'll say yes, and I'll figure it out, because that's what wrestling is. You just that's how, in my opinion, that's how you improve. Right? You just throw yourself to the fire, and there's a challenge every week, and just, hey, figure it out, man. We'll do it.
That is one of the best ways to look at it, is that philosophy of I'm not going to say, like, I'll say yes and figure it out. And that is honestly one of the things I always try to live by. And to watch you do it is always, I'm always so impressed by that. And again, knowing that you are one of the MVPs in that regard. And I want fans to know that he is one of the MVPs in that regard. Like, we just know that we can count on Serpentico to do it and get it done. And we know it's going to turn out well. Like, there's always that confidence of Serpentico's there, we're good.
Yeah, I enjoy the challenge of it. Right, because it's not easy, but like I enjoy going, I got 5 minutes to get ready and go out there, and Tony's gonna go out there and cut just a quick promo to give me time to get my boots on. By the time I go out there, it's great. I'm a big fan of challenging myself, right? And I've been wrestling so long, like challenges are hard to come by sometimes. Once you're wrestling for that long, like I've been wrestling for 23 years, so I opt for new challenges every week, and this is by far the biggest so far. So I'm very appreciative of being in this role and the trust it's put in me. Like, I'm very, very glad I'm able to provide in that sense.
We have a lot more ego inflating coming up on AEW Unrestricted, so stay tuned. Come back after this quick break and listen to all of us talk about how great Serpentico is. AEW Unrestricted, Aubrey and Will talking to Serpentico, one of the MVPs both on screen and backstage at AEW. Serpentico, he's legit, no joke. I say this with 100% seriousness, my favorite person to work with in the ring and on headset. Like,
Thank you.
Serpentico is so great, not only as a performer because of that, as we talked about last segment, that I don't know, but we'll figure it out perspective. Like, I feel calm. And it's hard because in my role, I oftentimes have to be the calm one when everyone else in the match is either nervous or worried or whatever. So it's really nice to be on the other side of that and know that, like, I have nothing to worry about because someone there is just so chill and laid back, and they're going to bring me down and ground me a little bit. And then on top of that, on the headset, like, John knows I'm learning Spanish, so cuando trabajamos, tú hablas español conmigo. So it's great because when I'm working with the luchadors, you can literally give me all the cues and direction in Spanish.
It's great.
And I don't have to swap. And then there was one time even you coached a match earlier that day and then had to do the thing Will talked about where suddenly we had to swap opponents around and wrestle. And then I'm giving you all the cues in Spanish and you're like, oh, this is how it is. This is how it works.
This is how it's on the other side. I remember looking up, I'm like, oh, because I'm Spanish is my first language, so I think in Spanish and then quickly translate and speak in English. So, like, when I get instructions in Spanish, I'm like, what? I don't have to do half of my job. That's great. That's awesome. Great.
And you literally just outlined the reason why I started learning this language in the first place. So thank you for that. But yeah, I mean, well, I'm going to be inflating your ego plenty of times throughout this. So let's just take a break from that for a minute. And I kind of want to talk about what it's been like from a wrestling perspective, because you kind of came in, joined a tag team, and you were sort of synonymous with tag team wrestling for a bit, and have kind of since broken out and become your own performer.
Yeah.
What has that been like, sort of being yourself and by yourself in a lot of instances in the ring? How has that changed your wrestling style? Or has it changed how you've enjoyed working at AEW as a wrestler?
It hurts more because I can't tag out anymore, and I just have to, I look for my partner in Angelico sometimes, like, well, he's not in this match. I gotta do it all myself. All right. No, I like to, in the ring now, I like to experiment with different things and see what works, what doesn't work. Right? We don't have what we call like house shows, so we have like dark matches and we have Ring of Honor stuff and TV stuff. So I know what works for me and my character and for the match. But I'll sprinkle sometimes a few things in there to see how the crowd reacts. And if they react great, all right, cool. I'll keep it in my pocket. I'll use it for next week or the next match. Or if they don't react how I thought they would, like, all right, well, maybe that doesn't work. I won't do that again. Or I'll come back to it in 6 months' time and try to tinker with the idea. So it's a lot of that these days where, again, a lot of my matches are last minute, right? I'm glad to be in that role. So you always have to rely on what works when the matches are, when I do have to go out there last minute. But when I have ample time to think about a match, or I know ahead of time for a few days what I'm going to do, I do like to try new things and just to see if it works. And sometimes, and I'm not afraid to say, sometimes some stuff that I try, it doesn't get the reaction that I want. So like, there's no shame in failing in that aspect. I'll just do something else. Again, figure it out.
Well, one of the more recent examples I wanted to talk about was a match that you had with, and it was on the Go Home show to Final Battle, where you faced Sidney Akeem.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, and I remember having that conversation and talking about that match in the creative room. You were in the room at the time, I believe. And, we had talked about the fact that Sidney is, of course, from St. Louis. This match took place in St. Louis.
Yes.
And he's very famously from St. Louis. And it was one of those things where, hey, he should probably have a match on this show, and he should probably get to showcase in front of his hometown crowd.
Yes.
Who's going to be the right opponent for that. And immediately it was like, Serpentico, duh. Like that's, but that ended up being awesome. Like people posted the highlights almost immediately on social media.
Very happy
and
with that,
and I want to talk a little bit about how getting that victory over Sidney and talk about him as an opponent.
Sidney's awesome. We during the pandemic, everything shut down. I still had access to a ring, thankfully. So I would go train in Orlando and just roll around, and Sidney would come up and we'd train. And this is when he was brand new still, right? He was still trying to find his way in wrestling and stuff like that. And we go over stuff. So I've known him for years. So then he sent me a text a few weeks prior to the show in St. Louis. Like, hey, I'm booked for St. Louis. I'm like, great. I already have something in the back of my head just in case. Maybe we can do something. We'll see what we can do once you're there. But Sidney's awesome. I think our styles complement each other very, very well. Once we knew we had the match, and we just told him, hey, like, we're gonna have a lot of fun. Do your stuff, and I'll be there for everything. Just, I want you, like, I'm already employed. It's not like I have to go out there and go, oh, let me impress the people in charge. I'm already employed. It's my job to showcase you as much in the best light as possible. We'll do it safely, and we'll get the crowd how we want. And I was very happy with the reaction that match got, because I'm usually the good guy. I'm the baby face. I'm the smallest one on the roster sometimes. So to be able to have somebody who's getting cheered over me made me switch gears a little bit and slow it down and just be able to take his moves and make him look as best as we could.
God, it's like, it's so simple when you say it. Like, that is ultimately what wrestling is, right? Like, it's figuring out what moveset you have, how you can apply it, and how you can make your opponent look as good as possible.
Yeah.
And it's great in this instance because a lot of times when we have the enhancement talent come in, we always tell them, like, hey, your job is to make our talent look good.
Right.
But in this instance, it's the opposite.
Sure.
And it's cool because you have that, like, understanding of, like, oh, well, you know, let's make this fun for you. Let's play it up a little bit. And it's nice because it's a change for you, different from what you normally do anyway when you're in the ring.
Yes, 100%. Like, I knew he does all this really cool like acrobatic stuff because, you know, he came from a circus background. So all the stuff he can do, and like, I can take all of it and I know exactly where to put it. And he does this really cool double back handspring cutter, which he uses that on these as, you know, his big finishing maneuver. I'm like, man, like, I don't want to, you know, take it and throw it away, right? But
I don't want to kick out of it.
If you want to figure out a way to hit it, because I know the crowd, that'll be the highest point of the match. And if we can figure out a way where I can get to the rope or roll outside so we don't have to, like, you know, just kill the move. And between him, me, and Jerry Lynn, like, the best course was, you know, just grab the rope and just lay there.
Oh, Jerry was on that. That makes so much sense.
Just lay there dead. You know, still put the move over, right? I just grab the rope and just stay there until you pick me up. So just stuff like that, little things like that I usually don't get to do, right? So it does make me very happy to, again, be in that position where, hey, we'll give someone a look. Put in there with me, and I'll make them look as best as we can.
Speaking of giving people a look, one of the things that I've seen that you are, again, being a guy that we can count on, a lot of times when we have people that are coming back to ring protocol when they've been injured or, you know, they're recovering from something, a lot of times it's like we actually want to see how they work in a ring, how they can bump, hitting the ropes, all this sort of stuff. So typically what we'll do is there's a couple very reliable talent backstage and we'll say, hey, can you do like a return to ring match with someone? And Serpentico ends up being one of those people. Clearance match. So when did that start happening for you? And what's sort of the difference in focusing on something like that? Because it's not like there's any crowd. Like, the audience for that is very different. It's our medical team.
Right, it is, it honestly, by accident, right? I usually get to buildings early and just, you know, I put my wrestling shoes on and go by the ring and just roll around sometimes. My time back then was a little more lax. Now I have a little bit more responsibility, so I don't have as much time to do that. But back then, I would get to the building, I'd fly in the day up, go to the building, and just roll around the ring. And then we had Doc and our athletic trainers would say, hey, like, do you mind just rolling around with this person, just see how they feel? And we did that for weeks and weeks and weeks. And now, like, I got back today. We're filming this podcast. I woke up early to do that today before the pay-per-view, and then came back here for the podcast. There was a talent on the show that needed to be cleared before we can actually, like, have them wrestle in New York. And it's awesome. Like, I get to wrestle before TV, you know, in front of nobody, which is way harder, actually. Way harder than wrestling in front of, you know, thousands of people. You wouldn't think so, but again, the medical team trusts me to be safe with somebody, and they tell me, hey, they're coming back from this specific injury, so let's focus on that specific body part to see how they hold up, because in real match circumstance, they're going to probably go even way harder than what we do now. So so I take a lot of pride in being thought of as, like, a safe worker, right? And I don't mind getting into it with anybody and just rolling around and wrestling until they're cleared.
Yeah, I love that. And again, It's just one of the I don't even want to say hats. It's one of the many masks you wear in All Elite Wrestling and in Ring of Honor. And kind of transitioning to that point, you really have become a very important part of Ring of Honor in ways that we don't even have to talk about right now.
Yeah.
But talking about the fact that you got that win over Sidney, that's
right.
a great place to be.
That's right.
In Ring of Honor.
That's right.
Do you see yourself with many more goals in Ring of Honor and moving up on that program?
I would love to do even more than what I do now in Ring of Honor. I love the product, and especially now working so closely with it. I do like once Angelico comes back. He's been out for a few weeks with a leg injury, but he'll be back soon. I would love to start tagging again. I think we have a very deep tag roster, and I would love to gun for those Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. I'm a big fan of just wrestling in general. Like, if you want me to put me in singles, and tags, trios, battle royals, I'll do it all just to be able to say, hey, I was part of this era of Ring of Honor, right? I used to go to Ring of Honor shows. Tonight, we're at Hammerstein Ballroom, and I watched Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly and the Hybrid Rules match where Adam Cole got busted open and had to beg the commission mid-match to not stop the show.
That's right. It was New
in
York.
This same
oh, my God.
building. And I remember watching that match going, wow, this is great. And that match, like, once the blood came out, like, the match just, the stakes got even higher and higher. And now people to say that, hey, we're running Hammerstein for 3 days, pay-per-view tonight, tapings tomorrow, and show Sunday. Like, I'm very proud to be part of this era of Ring of Honor, and whatever I can do in the front of the cameras or in the back, I want to just help propel the product itself. And my goals are in front of the camera and behind.
Mm-hmm. God, is like, I'm curious, like, how much sanity do you still have? Could you potentially take on more?
Very small. No, not a sanity left. But wrestling's all I want to do my entire life. So I can't get here and have this responsibility put on me and go, well, I don't want it. Like, no, this is what I worked for my entire life. Am I doing more than what I thought? Sure, but I chose this, right? So I'm not gonna say that I don't want this responsibility or I don't want to like do as much as I do, because this is what I have to do. This is what pays my bills. But even more important, this is what makes me happy. So I'm gonna do it until I can't.
I love it.
I want to ask one more question, and we'll probably go into more detail sort of in our next segment, because it's a much bigger question than we can get in like 2 minutes. But you're also a coach backstage,
yes,
which is a huge role.
Yes.
How did that happen? How did that start?
I say this, it's going to sound funny, but it's 100% true. I was bored. We have very long TV days. We have our call time, and then we get there, I don't know, 1, 2, depending on the day, and we don't wrestle till 8, 9, 10. What do I do between those hours? Like, I have to do something. I have to be playing with something, talk. I just can't sit there and just in silence. It's impossible for me. So I went up to Sanjay Dutt, and I said, hey man, like, can I just shadow you, just follow you around doing all your production stuff? Just because I just want to do something. If you're paying me to be here, let me just do stuff. If I'm not wrestling, I can do whatever else. It doesn't matter. The coaching stuff actually came in later. I was actually following him doing learning how to do pre-tapes and scheduling all these interviews and all the post-match stuff, pre-match stuff, and all the packages they make. I was learning all that. And then one day we were just talking, and then the idea of coaching came up. And I said, would you like to try? I'm like, oh, sure. I would love to do anything. Sure. I'll try this too. And yeah, that's how it came about. I was bored. I followed Sanjay around, and eventually I was offered the position from Pat, TK, and Sanjay.
Nice. Yeah, it's that same attitude of, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah. And I'll be completely honest. I thought for the first 2 or 3 months of me doing this job, I was awful.
We all were, probably.
I thought I was the worst person to ever do this job. But I've thankfully, like, we have a very good team that would coach me as I'm coaching. And right now, like, Jerry Lynn is very good at pulling me aside and go, hey, try this. It's a good idea. Dean Malenko's another one. He'll sit next to me and he'll put on a headset and he'll watch me coach. And then he'll come back and go, hey, this is great, but we can also fix these things. Like, that's awesome. That's all I want. I want someone to tell me, okay, this is great, but what did I do wrong so I can improve that part?
Mm-hmm. God, this is so good. And there's so much more to talk about this and more on AEW Unrestricted when we return.
AEW Unrestricted. It's Aubrey Edwards. It's Will Washington. And we are with Serpentico. AEW Unrestricted, of course, sponsored in part by our friends over at Upper Deck. And I want to talk about some of these Upper Deck cards we've got here because, look, these cards are freaking awesome. And we talked a little bit about the Black Diamond collection and the fact that in the Black Diamond collection, you get 6 premium cards per box, including these nice, super thick, and I mean thick.
Thick with 2 C's.
Yes, you get these thick, super thick cards. That's a single card here. These are excellent quality cards.
Nice.
And in this, you get some of the exquisite collection. We've talked about some of the ones that they've got the fabrics, things along those lines. But this exquisite card, and this is truly an exquisite card. Look at that. Look at that. Right?
That's like a solid 1/4 inch.
It is, but it also features Nyla Rose.
And
that is quite unfortunate.
So I want to talk about Nyla Rose, of course, credited here.
That makes one of us.
Is a true statement on this Black Diamond card as the second ever AEW Women's World Champion. Nyla Rose, the first female competitor to record 100 victories inside an AEW ring.
Oh, that's quite impressive.
Now, what I want from these cards we're going to talk about is for you to say something kind about your experience with these cards. So we'll start with Nyla Rose.
You want me to say something kind about Nyla Rose?
I do.
Are we paying him?
Yeah, are you?
Yeah, we are actually.
That's true.
Okay,
that's
that's
true.
Great. For all the flag that I do give Nyla, I do appreciate. She is very, very, very talented. She's very funny, very witty, and we've actually, not on AEW platforms, we've had a tag or two together where we complement each other very well. And if it was ever a time to have a mixed tag division, I would invite her to be my tag partner because I will trust in her sometimes.
Sometimes. I personally would ask to ref every single one of those matches.
Yeah.
Like, I would want to be a part of that. Holy crap.
Well, another person that I would like to pull a special card from, and this is a Technique by Taz card, and I want you to, again, say something kind about Chris Statlander.
Ooh.
Chris Statlander. Colloquially known by me and a few others as Chris Buttlander. Okay?
Yep.
She is also, she's very, very talented, very funny. She does bother me a lot at work. A lot. But I will say, I'm glad that she came back from those 2, leg injuries, and she's doing really well for herself now. I think she's found herself as a performer, and sky's the limit to what she can eventually do. Her and Mercedes Moné's match was outstanding. Like probably the most favorite match on that show. It was great. It was awesome, and I really would like them to wrestle over and over again because they complement each other so well.
Oh yeah. Well, finally, this gentleman right here, he is a former AEW World Champion, and
makes one of us.
Coming fresh off of World's End, he of course walked out of World's End 2023 as the AEW World Champion. I want to talk about Samoa Joe.
Oh, Samoa Joe. I've actually wrestled Samoa Joe multiple times on the Independents and he's a fellow video game nerd like myself, so we have that in common. And then that's it. And then he just whoops my ass. So, we talk about video games and Twisted Metal and stuff like that. And then we get in the ring and I get thrown around like a ragdoll. So, it's he's great. Yeah, I've watched him for years before he even started wrestling. It's really cool. One thing how wrestling is so cool is that it's a big industry, but it's very small at the same time. You could grow up watching somebody on TV and a few years later, you are their coworker, which in this case is exactly the same thing, right? I co-worked with Samoa Joe. Big fan of being co-workers with Sting at one point. That's somebody I grew up watching, and but Samoa Joe's really, really cool. Very nice to me when he's not, choking me out or doing. He did give me my quickest loss in AEW history.
I was gonna say.
Okay, you didn't have to say it.
I was gonna ask about that specifically because it is true that he beat you in 14 seconds. But now my question is on one end you got your ass whooped in 14 seconds, but on the other side it didn't last nearly as long. So,
to be fair, I got paid the same. Right, whether I worked an hour or 14 seconds. So if you do the math, I think I came out winning this way.
That's a really great hourly rate if you think about it.
Yes, of course.
Right? God damn. What? So great. Thank you, Upper Deck, for sending us all those awesome cards and giving us all these amazing moments to talk about. Speaking of amazing moments, I want to go back to the coaching a little bit because we only touched on that a little bit. But are there any matches in particular that maybe you have coached that have been really memorable to you or have, created fun stories that you'd want to tell us?
I think every match that I do coach has a story behind it, right? Because again, our live TV wrestling is like, I like to say, organized chaos.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way to put it.
Right? There's so much chaos going on in the back, but you have no idea because when you watch the product on TV, it's like, oh, it's a wrestling match, but you have no idea what we're doing in the back to, again, from coaching, producing, from the actual production team. Like it's a amalgamation of everyone working together so that can look so good on TV. I've coached so many matches where I'm sitting there watching it happen and go, wow, this is amazing. The last match I had that feeling was Ricochet versus Komander on Rampage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where I'm watching this match and I'm just sitting there because I'm just giving time cues and I'm just just in awe of what they're doing. And in my head, I'm like, wow, this is again, comparison for now and then, it's eye of the beholder. But I had the same feeling watching that as a performer when I watched Eddie and Ray from Halloween Havoc.
Mm-hmm.
That same feeling, wow, they complement each other so well. And Komander, who we brought in a few years ago, to see how much he's grown as a performer, and knowing Ricochet for a long time, I knew what he could do, and I knew what Komander could do, and I was so happy when the C2 brackets came out, they had a match together, and it's still in awe. You can watch it back at any point, and the stuff they do with that match is incredible.
So good. It's really great to know that you as a coach, you've talked about how the match is going to be formatted ahead of time,
sure.
But then watching it, you actually have no idea how it's going to pan out.
Right.
Step for step what's going to happen or what could happen, but the crowd being a part of it is huge.
100%. We have so many factors. Yeah.
Right. The chemistry between the performers is such a huge factor in how it's going to turn out.
Yes.
Man. So great. Has coaching changed your wrestling style at all?
Yes.
That's such a great question. I was actually very curious about that.
Yes, it has. I am now, I consider myself a better television performer than a quote unquote just wrestler. Because now what I think about are time cues, camera cuts, reactions, right? What camera to look at when something specific happens in a match. What would look best? What angle of this move would look best? What corner am I coming out of for a splash or something? What can get the biggest reaction or the better camera angle, what looks better on TV than it would if I just had a match without knowing any of this, right? So now I look at my matches. When I look at matches back, like I can see like small things, right? Giving your back to a certain camera, giving like not giving your like ending the segment, right? Which would be if I win or lose, right? I want to face the hard cam. Right? That's the last. I always give them a hard cam shot. I want to give you the last thing you see is whether I break free from it or not. I want you to see me in the middle of the ring, either raising my hand or doing something. Right? That camera always catches it. If my back is turned, there's a chance that you may not catch the reaction that would convey my emotion at that time. Especially with a mask, it's very hard to convey emotion. You can't see but from my eyes, so I have to convey it with my body and how you move around. And coaching has definitely helped me be smarter in that regard, because now whenever I do something that I would tell somebody that's wrong, I get all myself like, man, I would have told you had you done it, it was wrong, and I'm doing it wrong now. So like it makes me just more conscious about my wrestling too.
Well, so you talked about, and I want to bring this full circle as we close this chapter of Serpentico on AEW Unrestricted. Not that this is the last one, because
oh, it sounds very ominous.
We're just gonna have to
like,
check in with
gone.
you. But I do want to talk about the fact that you mentioned you've been at this 2 decades.
Yes.
Knowing where you are today and everything you've learned, being a coach, being backstage, being a part of the process in developing the product, what advice would you give 22-year-old Serpentico, knowing everything you know now?
I would have branched out sooner.
In what way?
So I left when I grew up. I trained and grew up wrestling in Puerto Rico, and then I moved to the States to continue my training. But I waited out of either circumstance, life, shyness. Like I would have. When I see people now going on these European tours or staying extended time in Mexico, just learning different styles, I eventually did do that, right? But I feel like had I done it sooner, I would have even more broad appreciation for different wrestling styles. And now I'm not saying I can acclimate to any style I can right now, but I think as a younger wrestler, be smarter with the moves I'm doing, right? Because after 20 years, everything hurts.
Yeah.
But that's like any wrestler in general. But for me, I would have loved to do like just Mexican tours and just be out there for 2 or 3 months, and then go to Europe for 2 or 3 months. We don't have that these days, right? It's really rare for somebody to send you somewhere and do, unless you do it on your own. But I would have preferred had I started my wrestling journey that way. I eventually got to it, but and again, I don't regret any step that I took to get here, because I am here. But I do wonder how my life would have changed had I done those international tours before settling in and moving to the States and then just continuing here.
It's such a good answer, especially considering and knowing that you were so close to retiring at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And now you are such a pivotal part to our success as a company. Like when you're not at work, I legitimately get sad. And I know things are going to be maybe a little bit more disorganized when you're not around. So it's you bring this sense of calm and accomplishment and organization and just like make it a better place to work. So thank you so much for all of that. I don't know if a tour in Mexico would have changed that, but I definitely appreciate it. Maybe not.
No, genuinely.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, seriously, Serpentico, and I want to say kind of the same deal, where I feel genuinely blessed to get to work with you as often as we do. And even if it's just sitting around having conversations about video games or movies or getting to work on what we do and create the most fun programming we get to create, at the end of the day, it is such a joy to have you in AEW. Thank you.
Thank you for the words. And honestly, likewise, like, you guys make it so fun to work. I come to work and know that, like, all right, I have my people, and I know stuff is going to get done. And if we don't know, if stuff gets, hard, we're going to figure it out. That's it. We're just going to figure it out. It's fine. We'll figure it out. We always do.
Well,
right? We always do.
And thank you, Serpentico, for being here. And you can follow him on Instagram and on X at King Serpentico. And of course, AEW Unrestricted is sponsored in part by Upper Deck. Collect your favorite wrestlers in 2024 Upper Deck AEW and start your trading card collection today. Unwrap, autograph, memorabilia, and premium tech inserts. Visit upperdeck.com to learn more. And you can listen to and follow this podcast, AEW Unrestricted, at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And check out video episodes on our YouTube channel at AEW Unrestricted. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And are you an AEW insider? Get early access to ticket pre-sales, special merchandise offers, and more straight to your inbox. Sign up today at AEWTix.com. And don't forget AEW Dynamite on TBS Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. and now streaming on Max. And AEW Collision live every Saturday on TNT and also streaming on Max. And ROH streams every Thursday on Honor Club. Otherwise, folks, I'm Will Washington. She is Aubrey Edwards. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Peace.